Hi everyone, Irina here for Star Wars Connection, and today's topic is all about one we've been asked about a lot, and it's really been a major topic ever since The Force Awakens came out. So many people have noticed similarities between Rey and Kylo Ren and two characters from the Legends continuity, Revan and Bastila Shan. So there has been a lot of metas that have been done about them. For the Reylo fandom, notably Tumblr user Oddsays, which was a really great help for this video. I managed to find also other metas on the topic that were very useful as well, and I must say Revan and Bastila's story is probably my favorite Star Wars story of all time. But before going to the comparisons themselves, for those of you who are unaware of this story, I'm gonna make a quick summary. This said, it won't really go into detail. I tried to keep it as short as possible. At first I made a much longer summary, but I started recording it. I absolutely hated it. So if you want a longer account with all the backstory behind Knights of the Old Republic and everything, because the world building for that is really incredible, I put a video in the description below that's really well done, much better done than I would ever hope to do, so you can go and click on that. Revan and Bastila first appeared in the 2003 video game Knights of the Old Republic, which is really one of the best Star Wars video games ever made. So this said, if you haven't played it yet, or if you intend to, I advise you get it as soon as you can, and if you don't want to get spoiled about it, stop watching the video right now because it won't be spoiler free. So yeah, the game is sold on Steam. It's like $2 or $3 when it goes on sale, so it's totally worth it. And for sure, graphics from almost 15 years ago can seem pretty bad today, but the story itself is truly an amazing one. The gameplay is pretty good. It's really worth your time. So Revan and Bastila lived around 3,950 years before the events of A New Hope. Revan was a prodigal Jedi who defied the Jedi Council and went to war with the Republic against the Mandalorians. And when he wanted to discover the reason why the latter attacked them, he fell across the Sith Empire in the unknown regions, and he got turned to the dark side. So he came back to invade the Republic, and he got stopped by another powerful Jedi who was Bastila Shan, of course. And after an accident where he almost died, he was betrayed by his apprentice Darth Malak. Bastila saved him, but she accidentally created a force bond, and the Jedi Council wiped his memory, gave him a new identity as a Republic soldier, and they retrained him as a Jedi. And basically their intention was to use him as a weapon of sorts against Malak. So of course during their quest, Revan and Bastila fell in love with each other, but of course Bastila didn't want to give in. Jedi forbade romantic attachments, but eventually they fell across Malak, who revealed to Revan his true identity, and he captured Bastila. So despite the discovery, Revan refused to regress back to his old self, and he went to save Bastila. In the meantime, she had been tortured and turned to the dark side, of course, and she was tasked with killing Revan. So at the climax of the story, they meet again. Bastila is all convinced that the light side made Revan weak and that she can defeat him easily, but he proves the contrary. So at that moment, she thinks she's a hopeless cause that can't be saved and begs Revan to kill her, but he tells her, and it's honestly really beautiful, like, no, you spared my life before because of your compassion, and you gave me a second chance, so I'm giving you that chance too. And I believe in you because I love you, and I believe in you so much, I'm destroying myself and giving you a chance to kill me, but I know you won't. And that is what finally convinces Bastila. So yeah, Revan saved her with the power of love, and that was 10 years before Disney bought the franchise. And yeah, later on, Revan and Bastila got married, and they had a neat philosophy that was too neat for the Jedi Council, and they got more or less banned. They had a son, and there's more to the story after the events of Knights of the Old Republic, but it's told on what is honestly one of the worst novels I've ever read, so I decided to ignore it. So now that you know pretty much everything you need to know about Revan and Bastila, how are they similar to Rey and Kylo Ren? So there is of course the obvious, so many people have noticed their designs are similar, but of course it doesn't stop there. So Revan was one of the most brilliant and promising Jedi Knights of his time and a war hero before becoming one of the most powerful Sith of all time. So after his redemption, he was considered a prime example of the Grey Force user, or if you prefer, Grey Jedi. Even though, Grey Jedi isn't really a good term, but, there's a certain philosophy behind it, and no, it's not being a YOLO Force user who just uses light side, dark side whenever he wants, unlike some people will say that I will not name. And, yeah, it's interesting to note that even in his darkest moments, he still had shades of grey to him, because he always had a greater purpose in mind. So after all, he had invaded the Republic not only to become its Dark Lord, but also for it to be ready for vitiate invasion. So he always had a certain compassion for the defenseless, and those are all reasons for why Malik's apprentice loathed him and eventually turned against him. So if you look at Kylo, before turning to the dark side, he was Ben Solo, son to war heroes Leia Organa and Han Solo, and he was one of Luke Skywalker's followers as well as his nephew, not to mention being the descendant of Anakin Skywalker, aka the Chosen One, who was later to become Darth Vader. So you could more or less say that he's royalty in the galaxy far, far away. However, he turned on his uncle and became the poster boy for the First Order. We still don't really know what will become of him, but it's a very safe bet that he will also get a redemption arc. So with him being kind of a walking mystery box, we don't really know what his true purpose is, but it is very strongly hinted that he has personal interests that have nothing to do with Supreme Leader Snoke's or the First Orders. So Snoke also accuses him of being too compassionate if you read the novelization, and it's really a trait he wants to see vanished, and that's why he tests him by ordering him to kill his own father. And then you have Bastila, who was a Jedi prodigy, and along with Revan, one of the most powerful Force users of her time. However, she tended to be brash, overconfident, and impulsive, and it's something she tried to temper by being pretty much a Jedi extremist. So she was separated from her father, whom she deeply loved, by her mother, and she was given to the Jedi Order, and it's something she was never really able to get over from, and even just forgiving her mother, it took her a lot of time to do that. So her many flaws, along with her Force bond with Revan, because like it or not, Revan and Bastila, with their Force bond, they kind of influenced each other. It was one of the many factors that eventually drove her to the dark side, along with her getting tortured by Malik, of course. So however, despite it all, she was a very compassionate individual, and she was fiercely protective of the people she loved. So on the other hand, you have Rey, who is, as per Kylo's words, strong with the Force, untrained, but stronger than she knows. So after a lifetime on Jakku, the harsh conditions have made her a very independent and resourceful person, and of course she has to react very quickly to whatever her environment puts on her way as a survival reflex. So she was separated from her family under mysterious circumstances, and her determination to wait for them is the reason why she has stayed on Jakku for so long, and why she wants to go back during The Force Awakens. So we don't know what her character arc will be like, though there are very high possibilities that she might dab in the dark side. We also know, thanks to hints and breadcrumbs here and there, that she's compassionate and that she will do anything to protect people she loves. So I guess you can all kind of see a pattern here. Obviously, even then, the parallels don't stop there. A very popular theory ever since The Force Awakens has come out is the possibility of Rey and Kylo having a Force bond, like the one between Revan and Bastila. So I don't think it will be called a Force bond, but the equivalent seems to be hinted as a Force connection, and that such a thing existed between Jedi such as Kanan or Ezra in Star Wars Rebels, or Yoda and Count Dooku. So as you can notice, it happens between a master and their apprentice. But it also seems to be the case between Luke and Leia as well as Luke and Vader, because they are members of the same family. So, however, the circumstances in which the connection happened with Revan and Bastila and could have happened between Kylo and Rey are very different. So in both cases, the connection happens more or less accidentally. So Bastila formed it while saving Revan's life, and the connection between Rey and Kylo seems to have happened during the interrogation scene. So what made Revan and Bastila's connection so strong and powerful was not only that they were powerful Force users, but they were also lovers. There was also the much discussed possibility that Rey and Kylo might be romantically involved, and we got proven in The Force Awakens that they might be the most powerful Force-sensitive people of their time. Another aspect of Revan and Bastila I want to talk about is their romance, and most especially their redemption through love. So despite the game coming out in 2003 and Revenge of the Sith in 2005, it really provides a really interesting contrast between them and Anakin and Padme. So part of what caused Anakin's downfall is his selfish love for Padme. So indeed, Revan and Bastila were fiercely protective of each other, but there is also a certain sense of sacrifice and selflessness as well. So Revan, after all, preferred dying rather than to kill the woman he loved, and he became basically the catalyst to Bastila's return to the light side. So there has been a lot of speculation about Rey and Kylo being Anakin and Padme in reverse, and therefore in a similar way to Revan and Bastila, they might not only perhaps save each other with selfless redemptive love, but also prove the conventions imposed by Jedi Code wrong. So all three love stories represent star-crossed lovers because their love defies all conventions. So however, while Anakin and Padme's story ends tragically, Revan and Bastila's meets a happy end as their love proves to be stronger than their ego, their inner darkness, and the conventions by Jedi or society. So here's to hoping Rey and Kylo will have a similar fate and not like Anakin and Padme. And while I'm in the Knights of the Old Republic topic, I will quickly mention a comic book that started to come out in 2006, which is also called Knights of the Old Republic, but the events happened before the first game. So the main characters are Zayne, I'm probably not saying his name right, and he's a Padawan who was framed to have killed his fellow Padawans, but of course he didn't actually do it, and that led him to a path of revenge while running all over the galaxy and wanting to clear his name. So obviously I don't want to get into speculation on whether Kylo is 100% responsible for whatever happened with Luke's followers. That's not really the topic of the video, but nevertheless, it's really an interesting parallel to consider. So Zayne had companions following him. One of them was an Arcanian offshoot called Jarael. She was a scavenger who had a certain degree of force sensitivity, and her weapon of choice was a staff. So personality-wise, again, she and Rey were very similar. So Jarael, I'm probably butchering her name, I'm so sorry. Jarael was slow to trust because of her upbringing, but she was also fiercely protective of the people she loved. So of course, Zayne and Jarael's first encounter was pretty hostile. So he called her Dark Sunshine, and she absolutely hated him. But of course, they got stuck together, and eventually their relationship developed into romance. And that's once again another interesting parallel to consider. So with all this, one thing I want to point out is that a lot of people who are against a romance between Rey and Kylo Ren often say that it's never been done in Star Wars before. As you can see, it's not the case. We had a similar case with Revan and Bastila, kind of Zayne and Jarael too, and actually there are many other examples I could have given as well. But I think the similarities between Rey and Kylo as well as Revan and Bastila are not a coincidence, because it's very interesting to know that Star Wars Rebels brought Malachor back into canon, and Rakata Prime has been brought back as well. So you have to know that those planets are key locations in Knights of the Old Republic. So the story group is also bringing back certain elements of the Legends continuity. Back in the Clone Wars they brought in Darth Bane. There's Thrawn, of course. There are also certain elements of Mandalorian culture and history that seem to have been heavily inspired from the Legends. So at this point, I'm a bit doubtful as to whether Knights of the Old Republic will be brought back into canon. So I kind of suspect that what will happen is that they'll take the best parts of it and use it for the sequel trilogy and probably other material, because it's a very rich world. We need to keep in mind that the Legends continuity, it's not really mainstream apart from, Thrawn and Mara Jade. So I don't think that Rey and Kylo are going to be a copy-paste of Bastila and Revan. I've seen some people kind of speculate that way. I don't think it's going to be a copy-paste either of other similar romances I could have named, but there's clearly some inspiration taken from them. So obviously, I really can't wait to see what's going to be done in the upcoming movies. So that's all for today. As usual, if you have any questions, you can send us an email or leave a comment below. And actually, if you have any questions about Knights of the Old Republic, don't be afraid of asking me. I'll be very happy to answer them. Of course, if you like us, you can subscribe to the channel by clicking on the lovely red button below. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Mixcloud. Links should all be in the description. Thank you very much for listening, and may the Force be with you.